Wanting to keep my podcast sponsorships and advertisements free, I stayed away from such options. Instead, earlier this year, an alternative appeared. With my fiancée, we have joined a rapidly growing marketing network for a company which develops technologies and healthcare products based on traditional Chinese medicine. Instead of advertising products and services, I've decided to extend this opportunity to you. While this opportunity may not be for everyone and might still be unavailable in your country, I have no doubt that in time it could be, and therefore here we are. If you are looking for a side hustle, an alternative way of earning, and a space to grow as your own boss and manager, this program could be for you. Commission-based and fully remote, I believe it to be an opportunity for those who feel like a 9-to-5 model takes away too much of their life and isn't exactly worth their time. If you'd like to learn more, follow the link below. If your country is on the list, you're in. I look forward to working with you, and now, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to WS Podcast. My name is Wojciech Salski, I'll be your host for today, and before we begin, may I just remind you, if you find this podcast entertaining, useful, in any way, shape or form, something to come back to share with the world, then make sure to follow or subscribe whatever channel you're listening or tuning in from. And maybe share it with a friend, put it on your social media. Basically help to spread the word. And if you'd like to support the podcast in any other way, please follow the link below. If you'd like to suggest a book for me to review, or maybe an idea to expand upon, or maybe you want me to change the way I've set up my background, whatever, feel free to reach out. I'm really, really grateful for all of you who do reach out, who do support, and who do listen. And happy to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, today's episode is an impromptu one. So I wasn't planning to record this, and you will probably be listening to it in quite a few weeks as well. So I'm recording into the future, like literally, and not only by a week or by a few days, but maybe even a month. Because I do have some episodes coming up for you over the next few weeks, and they are way too good for me to skip. But yeah, I had this sensation today as I was coming back from the library. I was walking through the park, and I saw this gentleman on a it wasn't even a wheelchair, those kind of chairs that you can manipulate with your hand, and you're sort of like driving around on them. I guess you could say it's some sort of rehabilitation chair, or I don't know, specialized support. And the kind of chair that you would associate with Stephen Hawking, for example, I think. And of course, I see such people fairly regularly. We live in these blessed times that we can help people with disabilities, and we can make people's life less miserable, even though they are, potentially challenged with some physical or mental challenges. And it just struck me really, really deeply. I remember, I think it sort of triggered my memory from when I was younger. I remember I talked with my mom about it at some point. I have a memory, quite a vivid one, of a time when I must have been like 7 or maybe 9. And we were on the playground, and there was this little boy that had a really big hunch. Like he looked like, one could say he was a hunchback. I don't know if that's a politically correct way of saying it, but he had a challenge of being really hunched over. I think he must have had something not exactly right with his spine. And I remember being really, really troubled and sort of shaken by that experience. I remember I was really upset. I cried. I went to my mom, and she doesn't remember it well, but I do. And I was just thinking at the time how I had this feeling like I would like to help him. I felt like this is wrong. Why? He was playing with us. He enjoyed his time as much as we did, but obviously there was something wrong, and it just really upset me. I think, quite frankly, it might have been one of the first ever in my lifetime, and this is an invitation for you to reflect on yours. One of the first memories I have, early ones, about the fragility and the challenges of life, or the difficulty of living, or that the world is not all rosy and fun as we often think when we don't know as we are kids, and we simply don't see the evil or the difficulties of the world. And and I thought to myself today, as I saw that gentleman, I wasn't sure for a moment. He sort of stopped, and he was doing something, and I wasn't sure, should I help him? I wasn't sure if he got stuck on the curb or whatever. So for a moment I sort of hesitated. I had this really visceral feeling of like being shaken by it, and I thought I'll record an episode about it, because I think we've not had yet a monologue dedicated to just gratitude and health in general. And this show is not necessarily about health per se. We touch on many different topics throughout the episodes, and when we have conversations with people, of course, there are many more topics that are sort of popping up. Recently we've been going through the series of books that were fiction books teaching us about non-fiction world, really. And I felt compelled to do this. So here we are, and I would like to talk with you about this, to raise your attention, to raise your awareness, and maybe help you notice as well just how important, and how how grateful potentially, and how important, how grateful you can feel. And we've had an episode on gratitude, so I'll link it below for you if you want to explore that concept more. But also on how we can make sure that what we've been given, what we've been offered in terms of our health, we actually keep and we celebrate. Because one of the thoughts that came into my mind very quickly, almost instantaneously, as I was walking back after that, after spotting this gentleman, was, and he wasn't, I think he was my age roughly, so just to exacerbate the sensation, I had this feeling of like this duty of making sure that I use to the best of my ability, and I take care of this body that I've been blessed with, and of this mind that I've been blessed with, and of this soul, or whatever, the life force, the opportunity of life that I've been blessed with. And my first invitation for you for this episode, as we go through these ideas, is to really feel in right now, realize how grateful you can feel if you choose to feel so. You're one of the few that are able to listen and comprehend. You're one of the few in the world that speaks the language that I'm running the show in. You must have some means of listening to this, and that's probably something to be grateful for. And you have hearing. Potentially you can see me if you're watching it as a video. So you have sight as well. And these things we take for granted because they are such an obvious part of our life, right? And there is the saying that you don't appreciate things until you lose them. And obviously it's very true, I think, in terms of health. It's crazy how on the daily basis when we're healthy, we don't really think much how great it is to feel healthy. But the moment you get a little bit of a flu, or you're feeling under the weather, or maybe you do get into some sort of trouble with your health, suddenly every waking moment you're thinking how it would be wonderful to be healthy. So it's a paradox that, on one hand, we don't notice it when it's there, and on the other, we cannot stop thinking about it when it's not there. I think it's very similar to all the other things that we come to appreciate in life, and then suddenly they disappear. Maybe a loved one dies, or you've had something and you lost it. You've had a job and you're no longer able to work or whatever. So just first step here throughout this whole episode, please notice what you have, and let's dive into it. I'm going to offer you some quotes today. I'm going to talk about the idea of gratitude, some health habits, and some ideas to think about health, and also offer you some, potential ideas how you could take care of that health a bit better. And I'll point you in the direction of the few books or resources, let's say, to explore it. So I'm just going to write it here straight away. So, obviously the thing that stood out for me is this idea that I do have a healthy body. I'm blessed with a healthy body. I have some, illnesses here and there, but for the most part, I'm able to, participate in exercise. I'm able to speak. I'm able to hear. I'm able to, to be with my family, my loved ones, and so forth. I have a healthy mind that allows me to do this exercise of articulating myself to you, or to read, to write, to appreciate written word, and so forth. And then I would say, a healthy spirit, to the point, I think I'm blessed with a slight bent towards optimism, which certainly helps through challenging moments. So just the three things already that I can feel grateful for right now, straight away. Now, in terms of this gratitude, we've talked about it very recently on one of the episodes. We've talked about this idea that what you focus on expands in your life. So if you remember, we've been discussing that depending on where your thoughts go, where your mind goes, your sort of energy over time and your subconscious follows. So, for example, if I go throughout my day listing as I go all of the things that I can be grateful for, over time I will actually train my mind to recognize more of those things. And it's not that it's not that my days are suddenly filled with more things to be grateful for. Rather, I actually notice more of these things that beforehand I've taken for granted, and now, because of feeling grateful for them, I have this sensation of gratitude, and I live within this gratitude. So, the point here is that your attitude of gratitude is what makes you feel grateful over time, and you can train yourself. And as we've explored before, it goes the same way the other way around, right? So if you go about your day constantly finding and pointing out, and even worse, saying it out loud or writing it down, all of the things that you're ungrateful for or you're unhappy about or they're going wrong in so many ways, and they you just want to kind of close up and everything's wrong, then over time you're training your subconscious mind to find more of these. And I would take it a bit further and say you're actually inviting more of that. But of course this is sort of more spiritual, maybe energy focused, for some people, impossible scenario. But I think it's true. I do believe that we attract what we think about, and so if you sit with the energy of anger, you will probably find more and more situations to be angry about. And if you sit with the energy of love and appreciation, over time you will find more situations to be loving and appreciative of. And probably the first step would be to observe what options are already there. But also I think over time, as you go through life with this attitude of gratitude and attitude of well-being, of love, of appreciation, of patience, the world will unfold to you in the same manner because you're sending out that energy, right? So, as a very basic example, if you go into a shop and you're exchanging some, maybe you're buying something at the shop and you have to go up to the shop assistant and maybe ask for help to find the product. If you come up to that person with an angry face, an irritated tone of voice, and you sort of bark at them this demand that you're looking for something and you cannot find it, and why is it that you cannot find it, they might be able to help you, but straight away you're sending them all of that negative energy. And so don't be surprised that their response is likely to be a negative one as well, right? Because they will probably feel attacked, even if you've not explicitly said, this is your fault that I cannot find this thing. Because of the insinuation of the tone of voice and simply of the energy you're sending, standing around someone who's angry can make you angry just by default. It does make you feel uneasy in the least. Then the reaction you're gonna get is that person might be quite upset and angry at you. And so then after this interaction, you go outside the shop, and obviously yet again you have another reason to be angry about, because how is it that person was so not pleasant for you? How can they be so rude, right? They work there. How can they be so rude to a customer? But if you were to look at that situation as a bystander, you would probably notice that you've initiated the kind of angry engagement, and so you got what you asked for, right? Like, you gave angry energy, and so you received angry energy back. Now, that same circumstance, that same situation, if you were to approach that shop assistant with a smile and with a kind tone of voice, with a sort of an ask for help in a courteous manner, that suggests you would like their help and you're really appreciative of them taking their time to stop what they're doing and find you the item, every now and then you'll probably meet someone who is angry because they are angry by default. But it is more likely than not, I think, at least that's what happens to me, that that person will respond with a kind and helpful attitude. And then, after finishing the shop and having found what you've been looking for, you go outside thinking, wow, how amazing customer service they have here. How grateful I am for that person's help. So both of these situations can be yours. It's a matter of what your attitude is going to be. And this is the same for this attitude of gratitude. You can be grateful about things that you have and about life that you have, about health that you have, or you can be upset about all the things that you don't have. And of course, especially through our consumption-driven marketing, world, and especially if you're spending too much time on social media, constantly looking at other people's lives, which is not real, because what's online is not necessarily what they do in actually all the time. Maybe they have been on one trip last year, but for the next few months that's only the things that they're posting about, and and here you are working away, being frustrated that they have it better. But if you were to stop looking so much at what you don't have and notice just how much you do have, I am certain you will find life easier and more pleasurable, essentially, over time. Now, the quote here that I wanted to share with you, two of them actually. One is, words are the wardrobe of the soul. And I think we've talked about it before. How you choose your words and what you choose to talk about will determine, to a degree, what kind of a world you're creating, right? If for the most of your time at work you're sharing spite and upset, and you're upset about things and you're irritated and you do what you're told but you're angry about it, then you're probably going to breed more of that resentment, and you're likely not to be liked at work as well. Now, in the same way, if you were to choose in your time at work to focus on talking about the beauty of the world, or simply asking people, what's up, how's life, and focusing on the positives rather than negatives, you are likely to be considered a better coworker, and you'll have a much nicer work environment, simply because you've created it. Yet again, we can choose to spend our free time talking about the world's problems, or we can spend our free time talking about solutions. So it's just a quote for you that I don't remember if I came up with it or if I got it from somewhere. I'm pretty sure I got it from somewhere. Words are the wardrobe of the soul, so choose your words wisely. And the second one is, deal with the world as it is, not as you want it to be. And why I'm sharing this and the way I understand it is not necessarily to discourage you from creating the world you want, as we've explored a few weeks back, because I think there is a huge power in creating your world. But as you stand here right now and want to move forward in the world, in whatever domain, maybe you want to become healthier, maybe you want to become richer, maybe you want to become more attractive, more interesting, more educated, whatever, you need to first accept and understand and establish where you are. It's very difficult to get where you want to go if you don't know where you're starting. So there should be a reality check to begin with. If you are struggling with being overweight and you've not trained for many years, it's probably best that you start small and start slow and accept where you are. This is not to brag about your circumstance or to shame yourself because of it or feel guilty or ask people for pity. Rather, it's for you to be able to move forward in a manner that will actually help you. It's unlikely, if you've never swum before, it's very unlikely that jumping in the deep end and just trying to stay alive will help you much. Some people might have learned that way. I don't know of anyone that did. So it's important to have that reality check done with yourself, and that reality check can be both positive and negative. And of course, if it's negative, then that's just a lesson and a starting point. And if it's positive, then all the better. Today I felt like I had a reality check. I was walking on my healthy, touch wood, springy legs, coming back from a study session and feeling really good, feeling like my body is, in great shape. And my reality check was, look, Wojtek, you are very blessed to be where you are and to be how you are. And so simply that as a reality check is also a really good reality check to have. Maybe a big reality check that I've already offered to you earlier in the episode is you are listening to a podcast right now. So your reality check is you are at least as blessed to have the possibility of using this kind of equipment that allows you to listen or watch a podcast, and that in and of itself is a beautiful blessing to have. Now, in terms of actually taking care and sort of acting out on our duty that I mentioned before, right? If you are healthy, I think it is your duty to keep that health and celebrate it and make use of it to the best of your ability. And it doesn't mean having the attitude of you only live once and, shoving everything down your throat and not thinking much about consequences. I think rather the opposite, actually starting to care about your health, your mind, your body, your soul, your whatever, your life. My first question for you is, right now take a moment and consider, how do you take care of your body, your mind, your soul? What activities do you have in your week, your month, your year, in your day to foster these and to take care of them? In the words of Jordan Peterson from 12 Rules for Life, which I'll link below as well, because I think it's a very relevant book. One of the rules is take care of yourself as if you were someone worth taking care of, right? Or be responsible for yourself the way you would be responsible for someone you care about. And, a really, really powerful thing here to think about is this idea, apparently, and I'm pretty sure you have the same experience, I certainly do. People tend to take care better of their pets than themselves. If an average person, when they get a prescription for their pet, maybe because their dog is under the weather and needs some medicine, they will go to extra lengths to ensure that the dog eats what they have to eat and takes the medicine when it has to take the medicine. Now, apparently, statistically, people are, on average, we are much less likely to do the same for ourselves. And I certainly have had this experience before in my life when I went to a doctor or to a physician or whoever, and I got a prescription, I got some guidance on what should I do to take care of myself. And then here we are, a few months later, and I've completely abandoned the routine, right? I think it's very applicable for all of us who are trying to start a new habit and they know what they should do, but it's just for whatever reason, it becomes much easier to find an excuse than to actually do those things, right? That's why usually at the beginning of the year, people go to the gym, and then by March, 70% of those that started are already back on their couch and not training, because it's very difficult to keep that self-discipline. And for whatever reason, in terms of these medicines versus our dogs and stuff, we seem to not take care of ourselves as well as we do for other creatures, including our pets. And I think that's a big, a problematic thought to have, and we should definitely wrestle with it. How do you feel about this? And just ask yourself honestly. Like, I'm not judging, I can't tell what you're thinking right now, but ask yourself, have you had that experience before when you've been told, maybe you've had a problem and someone offered you a solution and you've been told what to do, but then, here we are a few months later and you've not done anything about it. I certainly see it on the daily basis. Like, in many areas of life, I've had discussions with people. Some problems were more pressing than others. Some problems are more difficult than others, and some people follow through and some people not. There is this idea, this quote that goes something like, change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. And unfortunately, for many people, that's exactly the case. Of course, let's yet again deal with reality on reality's terms, right? Not as you want it to be, but as it is. If that's your reality, then try to come up with ways to override that challenge that you have. Maybe you need to start smaller, or maybe you need to get an accountability buddy or someone to actually help you. If you're trying to get healthier at the gym, but whenever you're at the gym, you don't have the motivation to train and you don't know what you're doing, so you're finding excuses not to do it, then it's probably best, if you can, to find yourself someone who will sort of coach you, guide you there, and also motivate you and keep you accountable. For example, it's much more difficult for someone to skip going to the training when they have a training buddy, right? So maybe finding a sport that demands of you to be training with someone, I don't know, tennis or football or whatever, might actually help you overcome that laziness and that, proneness to being imperfect, simply to leaving this on the side and saying, I'll go back to it tomorrow. And now in terms of this thinking about this, I want you to consider this idea I've heard recently on one of the shows, that pain is information. So if you think of pain as information instead of thinking of pain as an end to your means or as a challenge, if you think of pain as information, as a stepping stone, you can start to appreciate its value, right? Pain in our body signals to the brain that there is something wrong, something's going on. It's like an alarm bell. So if you are in pain, you probably should do something about it, right? You wouldn't, unless you go to a doctor who just gives you painkillers and says not to care about it. But of course, we all know how that ends. You just end up taking more and more painkillers, and the pain is still there. I would urge you to consider if there is any pain in your life, in whatever domain, and consider that an information, a trigger to do something about it. And finally, a very different idea, but I think very, appropriate for both the attitude of gratitude and the habits that we're emulating, is this idea that psychology is more infectious than the flu. There is this saying that you become a mixture, I think, of 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So if you are trying to become more sporty, more athletic person, but 5 people that you're spending most time with spends their time on the couch watching Netflix and eating, donuts, then it's going to be very difficult for you to overcome that, because you will have not only your lazy mind and body to contend with when you're trying to work out, but also all of those around you, even if they do wish you well, in the context of the activities you do together, it's unlikely that you will be supported with leaving when everyone else is enjoying, snacks on the couch. So in a way, the attitude here is yet again something we start with, and sometimes that does mean that for a certain period of time you need to cut yourself off of some of people. For example, my observation in terms of social media that we've touched on before is, ever since I switched off Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I basically just moved all of my social media activity to Primal, to this one newly emerging social media platform. I've noticed that I'm spending much less time comparing myself to others simply because I don't have the opportunity to do so, because I don't know what my friends are doing, right? Unless I'm talking with them, I don't know. And of course, if you call someone to ask how they're doing, there is this connection made. So even if you are prone to compare yourself with that person, it's a very different relationship than just seeing a photo on screen. So, from that standpoint, I would urge you to consider that your attitude and your environment does have an impact on how you will perceive yourself to be grateful, healthy, and so forth. And it will either help you become more gratitude focused and healthy in whatever shape or form you want to be, or it will make it more challenging for you to do so. Now, our final theme, let's say, that I listed here, that I wanted to share with you, is this idea of peaceful moments, right? So more on the mind and soul side, if you will, although it does help the body as well to be still. Now, the quote here to begin with is, boredom is unappreciated serenity. That's a quote by Jimmy Carr, the comedian. Boredom is underappreciated or unappreciated serenity. We live in a time of huge overstimuli. We've talked about it so many times. Even the mere fact that you're able to listen to an hour podcast right now without a stop means that you're probably in the minority of the world. Many people cannot stand longer than 20 seconds videos by now, which is, I think, a travesty. And we do it to ourselves every day by allowing these social media platforms to grab and basically, catch our attention and destroy it. I think the invitation that Jimmy Carr offers here is to recognize that there is a huge peace component to being bored. And actually, boredom is where creativity, for example, stems from, right? Many inventors, many great minds point out that they would actually have dedicated time in their day, and usually that dedicated time would be quite early on in the day when their energy is quite high in terms of, daily activities, that was dedicated to not doing anything, to pondering ideas or to meditating on problems, or just listening in to the creative part of ourselves. And I think we underestimate it greatly these days, which is yet another way that we underestimate and not take care of our mind and soul and body well enough, right? Because if you don't give yourself time in the day, especially in the morning, free of any distractions, to simply be with yourself, you can't really be in touch with yourself, because you don't know what's going on inside of you. If the first thing you do in the morning as you wake up is pick up the phone and check the news, then there is no space for you to listen to the news in your own self, right? You are essentially just hijacking your self-attention, the time that you could spend tending to yourself, by attention of whatever someone is, wishing upon you to see. And of course, the algorithms don't care about your mental health or your well-being. All they care about is for you to be watching more, right? So it's unlikely that you will see things that will help you live mindfully, peacefully, and healthily, right? You're likely to see something shocking, something that will make you doubt or worry or think about the world in a way that will keep you glued to the screen. And this is this idea about dopamine addiction, which we've talked about so many times. And Anna Lempke wrote this book, Dopamine Nation. We've not talked about the book yet, but I'll make sure to link below the link to that book, as well as the anxious generation, right, which we've discussed before. These ideas can be sort of summarized in this quote: too much intense stimuli will lead to resistance over time, right? This is key. So if you are never fully at peace, if you are never fully, still, breathing, just thinking or not thinking, just being, then essentially over time you will need more stimuli to feel the same sensations, especially on the dopamine side, while it will become increasingly more difficult for you to stay still, to pay attention, right? Because you're essentially you're training a muscle, you're overtraining a muscle of constant agitation, and you're allowing your muscle of focus and peace to atrophy. And of course, if you don't train your muscles, they start disappearing, right? That does not happen overnight, but it does happen over time. So if you've ever worked out and then you took a break for some time, you know how difficult it is to come back, because your body over time will start letting go of these cells, simply putting energy somewhere else, because the body is smart enough, and your mind as well, to know how to preserve energy. And what's the point of keeping you in great shape if all you do is lie on a couch, right? But it applies also to this idea that if you're constantly bombarding your mind and your soul with external stimuli, over time you become more numb about it, so you need more of it. That's why you become increasingly more addicted to random crazy stuff on the internet. And also over time it becomes more challenging for you to sit still for a moment without checking your phone, without listening to something. And another quote here to bring us down to reality is from Ayn Rand: "You're free to ignore reality, but you are not free from the consequences of reality you're ignoring." So all of these things we're exploring right now, and all of the thoughts that I'm trying to share with you, you can just go, you can go about your day after this episode the same way you did before. And if you are doing things that make you worse over time, or if you are avoiding to do things that will make you better over time in terms of your health, financial security, whatever, relationships, education, career, spirituality, you can ignore it, but the reality will not ignore you, right? You will suffer the consequences of these actions and inactions. It's just because you choose not to care about your health doesn't mean that you're not gonna be prone to suffer the consequences of not suffering, of not caring about your health. It's like, oh no, I don't work out, so it's not going to be a problem for me. Like, since I've not taken care of my body, that topic does not exist, right? It's not in my vocabulary to be working out and be taking care of my health. And I can assure you, if you have this attitude, at some point in life, as we go and as we wither, you will suffer the consequences of your action or inaction. And so, noticing that gentleman in the park today was like a bucket of cold water on me in many ways, in terms of like a kick up the ass, as they say, on so many levels, on just how blessed I am to be where I am, the way I am, and also like a reassuring reminder of making sure I do go to the gym tomorrow, and I do go train today, and I do read the book, and I do take 10 minutes to meditate, and so forth. You don't have to start big to take care of yourself, but you certainly, I think, should consider taking care of yourself, even if just so you would fulfill the duty of those that are blessed with the opportunities you have to exercise those opportunities, right? And an interesting quote from Denzel Washington I wanted to close this topic with is, "You'll never be criticized by someone who's doing more than you." And I think this is so, so powerful. When I heard it first time, I was like, wow, this is so on point. I've noticed that whenever we're doing things that other people didn't think we could do, or whenever we pick up a new habit, or we start participating in something that other people are either scared of or doubt about, or they are too lazy to go to try to be, it's often those that are scared of it or are jealous of you doing it, but they're not doing it, that will criticize you. And unfortunately, oftentimes our loved ones will come up with reasons that make it sound as if they are caring for us. That's why for our own benefit, they're telling us, not to do something, to be careful. While essentially, in a way, I think it's this attitude of, if you have a house, a family, and all of your family members are really messy, and the whole house is a complete mess, and then you decide that you're gonna start to clean your room, and so you do clean your room. You might find that there will be some comments being made that, what are you doing? Why are you cleaning your room? What's up? What's different? Why? Some people might say that you're not acting like yourself. And then maybe as you've cleaned your room, now all of their rooms that are unclean, in contrast to your room, seem more dirty. Because in a way, you shine a mirror, you show them a mirror onto themselves, right? That's why people often project their insecurities and their issues onto us. Because the moment someone sees you doing something that they're scared of, one of the defense mechanisms of their ego to ensure that they can excuse themselves from failing to do that which you're doing, which they would like to do, is to criticize you, to show you how much you're doing it wrong, or how much it's unfair and whatever. And so the thing that I have certainly observed in my life, and I think you would too if you were to think about it, is people who do more than you, people who work out more than you, people who learn more than you, people who work harder than you, will not be the ones to criticize, because they know just how much effort you're putting in, because they're doing it as well and they know how difficult it is. It's only those that think it's easy but they don't do it that are likely, in my opinion, to criticize you for doing it, because in a way your success becomes their metrics of failure, and that's annoying, right? No one likes to fail. No one likes to feel like a failure. And of course it's their problem, but it will potentially affect you. That's why I'm talking here about this in the context of peace. Now, as we've explored this gratitude idea, the health approach, health habits, and why you should care, and of course, how can we make sure that we're at peace with others and ourselves, I would like to close the episode off by offering you some invitation, right? Some ideas for habits you might want to try. And I'll also make sure to link below the episode about habits, because I think it's very, very relevant for you on your journey if you've not checked it out before. And it's fun because it's also one of the first episodes, and it's a very different way. So if you've not seen the early episodes of this show, then check out that link. Here are some ideas that I tried or I'm practicing on the daily basis in terms of the three trifecta of our well-being, right? Body, mind, and soul. For your body, I would encourage you to pick up some sort of exercise, whatever that is for you. It can be working out in a group, some sort of playing games and whatnot. It can be just your own workouts. It could be just a walk, a cycle, a run, whatever works for you. So, number 1, exercise. Number 2, make sure to stretch. And this is very, very appreciated, especially by the guys out there. I know, because I was one of them. And I still, out of all the workouts, it's usually the stretching workout that I miss when I do miss it, and for a bad outcome. So certainly consider stretching more. That's number 2. Number 3, start breathing. And I'll link below Wim Hof's method, which I'm doing on a regular basis, almost every day. And I'll also link below the book, which I'll explore with you in a few weeks' time, called Breath by James Nestor. Amazing book that makes you realize just how important your breath is. And so breathe is number 3 for body. And number 4, for God's sake, relax. Like, take a rest, I think especially if you're like myself, ambitious and, energized and very outgoing, you can drive yourself insane with overtraining and overdoing. So make sure to find space for relaxation and your downtime, your, recuperation stage. Now, for the mind, I would encourage you to start reading. And I'm not talking about reading news on your phone for 10 minutes. I'm talking about picking up some sort of a book or listening, but reading is better for your mind. And read. Maybe write down every day 5 things you're grateful for. That helped me. I used to do that. Now I'm just listing them, but it certainly is a powerful way of strengthening this ability to write, while at the same time strengthening this muscle of gratitude. Talk with people deeply, not about some silly stuff, not about jokes, but about things that you're, empowered, inspired, deeply interested in, and meditate. Take some time for 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day if you need to start with 5, and just sit down and just be. Just breathe. You can find so many meditations online as well to look for, to use. Find a way that works for you, but give your mind that workout, which literally is training your ability to be peaceful, be still, be focused, which is such an undervalued quality and so important in our time. And finally, create. Come up with some ways of using your creativity. As a child, you probably had some fun with drawing, painting, writing, maybe playing on instruments or whatever. Find a way to act out on your creativity. And if you'd like to check in with your creativity more, I'll link below The Artist's Way, this beautiful workbook, which I would encourage you to get and just go through it. And that's definitely in line with this episode. And finally, for the soul, I would say all of the above plus pray, whatever that means for you. It can be visualizing what you want in life. It can be giving thanks to the higher power, to God, to whatever you believe there to be, for yourself, for luck, for fate, and for all of the things that you do have. And this will also help you, I think, to appreciate and to be grateful more for all of these things that we've explored. So yeah, here is a little monologue for you, monologue number 16, I believe. As I said, it's one of those things. Taking care of ourselves seem to be really difficult for us, and I don't think that should be the case. I think you should be smart enough, wise enough, to caring enough for yourself to care for. So I would encourage you to do so. These are some ideas. Please let me know what you think. Maybe comment below which habit you're gonna pick up, or how did it work for you after trying it for some time. And remember to be grateful, because there are many reasons, I bet, in your life right now to be grateful for. And this is also an episode for me as a reminder for my future self in the times of challenge, to be grateful. So yeah, I'm grateful to be here with you. I'm grateful to be recording this. And other than that, as per usual, if you'd like to support the podcast somehow, follow the link below. And make sure to follow or subscribe, just so you don't miss the next episode. And other than that, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.